I'm super excited today to be joined by Governor Janet Mills, who this morning announced her candidacy for Senate in Maine. Now, Governor, I want to jump right into a question that you're going to get asked a lot on the campaign trail, and that's the Democratic Party is really looking for a new generation of leaders right now. You've been in office, in public office, for several decades. Why do you believe that you are the best candidate to serve in this moment?
Look, I think these are pretty dangerous times, urgent times, unprecedented times, when Donald Trump is threatening the very fabric of our democracy, the rule of law, threatening health care, funding for education, climate change, which he doesn't believe in. And the Congress of the United States, including Susan Collins, our current senator, is just not standing up to him. So while he's doing all this damage to Maine people, I want to stand up to him. And I think we can't take a chance on this election. Unlike anybody else in this primary, I've actually won election. I've won 2 statewide elections, and I've delivered progress for Maine people, delivered full funding for for education, delivered expanding health care to 100,000 more people in Maine, delivered when it comes to free community college, free meals, free school meals in public schools across the state. Look, I've accomplished these things, and I'm a fighter. People in Maine know me, know who I am. You know, what you see is what you get. And they've had confidence in me, shown confidence in me for years, and I expect to take my goals, my principles to Washington and fight for Maine people the way I have for a long time.
Well, I got to ask you, this morning you made some headlines saying that you're only going to serve 1 term if
Sure.
elected. That's 6 years. Now, Susan Collins also once said that she would only serve 2 terms. How can, I guess, Maine residents hold you accountable to ensure that you don't run again if you were to win?
Look, it's just common sense. For me, the next few years are the most important years, almost the most important years in the history of our country, going back a long time. And if we don't turn things around in the next few years, we're going to lose our democratic rights. We're going to lose our democracy. We're going to lose the balance of powers in the courts, the Congress, and the chief executive. We're going to lose health care. Look what's going on right now, where they're arguing over extending health care and extending the health insurance premiums under the ACA. What they're fighting over right now is health care. And Susan Collins has called it a poison pill. I don't think health care is a poison pill. And I'm willing to go down there now and fight to preserve the right of Maine people to have health care, to have education for their kids, whatever their zip code may be, and to renew the fight on climate change, to renew the fight for equal rights. All those things are clear and dear right now in the next few years. And I'm going to give it all I've got, the time I've got.
Now, Governor, I got to ask you, this morning we learned that there is a new Maine Victory PAC, essentially, or joint fundraising committee between your campaign and Senate Democratic leadership. What's your response to critics who say that Chuck Schumer in D.C. is putting his thumb on the scale in favor of your campaign in a primary where there is no clear leader, at least right now, from public polling?
Well, I don't know about polling, but look, I do know this, and Maine people know this. Nobody pulls my strings. Nobody tells me what to do. And I don't take orders from anybody in D.C., whether it's Chuck Schumer or Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump. Believe me, Maine people know that I'll stand up for them. And that's what I intend to do in the U.S. Senate.
Well, I got to ask you now, one of the biggest issues right now is the cost of living. Cost of living is just too high for far too many people across the country, and especially in Maine. In the first few years of office, I guess, what's your plan to reduce the cost of living for folks, reduce the cost of groceries? How can we make America more affordable in this moment?
Great question. Look, I feel it every day when I go to the grocery store and I see the price of a box of macaroni and cheese tripling from 10 years ago, the price of a pound of bread going sky high. I was a full-time district attorney. When I married my husband, Stan, who was a widower with 5 daughters, I ended up, being stepmother to 5 girls and helping keep the household and stopping on my way home from work for a rotisserie chicken to put on the table for supper. The price of those things is no longer doable for Maine families. I don't think I'd be able to support a family of 7 anymore or help support them on the prices that are there today. So listen, one of the things that's affecting the cost of living right now is Trump's tariffs, the roller coaster tariffs that are just here today, gone tomorrow, back again the next day. The Constitution gives the Congress of the United States the power to enact tariffs, not the president. He's been misusing that power. Tariffs can be used in a targeted way for targeted countries and targeted products to help the Maine economy, to help the economy of the nation. But the way they're being used now only reflects on our inability to get goods, common goods, steel and aluminum that go into building supplies, autos, the price of autos and trucks, it's going sky high because of tariffs in good part, and because of the whipsaw nature of this economy that Mr. Trump has invented. That's one thing, one approach to it. Healthcare is another. If people can't afford their health insurance, it's a critical part of paying your bills to be able to have health insurance. And you know, we're the only country in the industrialized world where your ability to get healthcare depends on you're working somewhere, having a job at a particular employer that offers health insurance. That's not right. And that's got to change, obviously. But in the meantime, we have the ACA and the tax credits that support the ACA. And more than 60,000 people in Maine rely on those tax credits to pay their health insurance bill every month. That may well go away in the coming weeks, depending on what the Congress does today to stand up to Donald Trump. Those are the kind of fights I'd like to have, I'm willing to have on day one.
Well, I got to ask you about those fights specifically, because even if you win and say the majority in the Senate goes from 53 to 52, and Democrats somehow pull off a win in Iowa and maybe even Texas, it's still a 50-50 Senate with a Republican majority because Vance is a tie-breaking vote. It's a very uphill battle for Democrats to take back the Senate. How are you going to win these fights in a minority? And how are you going to reach across the aisle to actually get things done if you're in a minority?
Look, I've done that. I've worked across the aisle my entire career in politics. I didn't start out in politics as a youngster, but since I've been in politics, I've been able to work up. We've had budgets, bipartisan budgets. We've worked across the aisle constantly to achieve things for Maine people, to restore funding for public health, hire back the public health nurses, to fully fund education, to expand health care. In the Congress of the United States, like the legislature in Maine and everywhere else, every vote counts. And you've got to be strong, and you've got to be able to talk to the other side. Of course you do. Look, I was brought up in a Republican family. We argued at the dinner table quite a bit. I know how to make the case for Democrats and to approach Republicans and talk across the aisle to get things done for Maine people.
Now, Governor, before I let you go, I do want to finish by talking about something that's really impacting a lot of Americans, and that is healthcare. Obviously, we have the Affordable Care Act subsidies that you mentioned are set to expire. Say they do expire. What can you do to protect Maine people in this moment, both not just as a candidate, but also in your role as governor?
Sure. In my term as governor, the past 6.5 years, we've brought down the uninsured rate for Maine people, the proportion of people who don't have health insurance down to about 5%. That's a big drop in what it was before. What that means is uncompensated care ends up going to the hospitals to pay for, and that increases everybody else's bills, right? They got to pay for it somehow. So the uncompensated care has gone down because our rate of uninsured has gone down. We've got to make sure it stays down, provide health insurance for as many people as possible. Two things going on: the ACA thing you mentioned, and Medicaid. The big bad bill, which Susan Collins cast a pivotal vote to advance in the U.S. Senate. That big beautiful bill, so-called, takes away Medicaid health care from thousands and thousands of people in Maine and millions across this country. At the same time as it renews and continues tax credits and tax breaks for billionaires, and in the same breath, it takes food stamps, takes food away from children. For crying out loud. There was a headline the other day in Maine that said food bank organizers, food bank directors foresee a tsunami of food insecurity in Maine and across the country. That's pretty pretty sad. Healthcare is vital. We've got to fight to keep it, fight to overturn the cuts that were contained in the so-called big, beautiful bill, fight to restore food stamps for hungry families. These are vital things. They're all equally important.
Governor Mills, thank you so much for joining me and good luck in your campaign.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Hey folks, Aaron Parnas here. Thank you so much for watching The Parnas Perspective. Please consider subscribing to support our work as we grow this independent news media entity into something that rivals mainstream every single day. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.